So Coach Mckissick, the funeral started at 2 o'clock. It was about an hour and 15 minutes service. Scott Eisberg joining me right now. And we've had some amazing John Mckissick stories, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But I think today may be the icing on top of this cake.
Yeah, we were talking to Joe Call's dad in the visitation. We just went in to pay our respects to Miss Mckissick and the rest of the family, and he said, you guys, you should see what he's buried in. And we said, well, what? He goes, well, take a guess. Khakis, the Somerville jacket, the hat, and the best story. They said, we can't bury John Mckissick without a whistle. They couldn't find a whistle in his house. They said they were searching the house up and down to find a whistle. They finally found one, so he is buried looking just like Coach Mckissick. And the coaches that were there today, his adversaries, that's the way they remember him. But they saw him right up to the end. It amazed me how many of them said, we visited him at home. We visited him at the assisted living. Chuck Reedy had him at his restaurant just a couple weeks ago. They all wanted those last couple of stories from Coach. A Monday morning with the crowd of a Friday night in Flowertown.
When you think of Somerville, you think of Coach Mckissick. I don't know of anybody in any town that I'm aware of that one person, really symbolizes the whole town. I mean, when you think of Somerville, you think of John Mckissick.
It's kind of old. It's pretty cliche, but simple and true today. If you build it, they will come. John Mckissick did just that with this town, this team, and boy, did they.
Well, the pastor just told me he's got a green a casket, and they said once a green wave, you're green wave till you die, and I think that's probably John Mckissick. If a third of his football teams come, they'll fill the church up.
The greats who coached against him had the utmost respect for him.
We were fierce rivals, but great friends, had a special relationship with him. We always had great times together, and his wit and his humor was unmatched. We had an early connection because he was in the 82nd Airborne as Airborne Ranger, and so was my dad, and they missed each other coming out of boot camp, coming out of jump school by about a week before the war ended. So we had a lot of great things to talk about.
Loved and revered for the X's and O's and by the Jimmies and the Joes.
It was unbelievable. We still laugh today when I got to Georgia from Somerville. They had water everywhere, and I was scared to drink it for 2 days because I thought it was a trick because we never got water. He was tough, but, you learn how to be a man. Yeah. I can promise you that. It taught you how to be a man.
It was automatic. So we knew that he was the legend of the coach. We're bought into what he was doing, and we just did the best we could and certainly just listened to him.
For 62 years, John Mckissick carried this town on his back. It's time to rest easy, Coach. It's time to rest easy. You deserve it.
Oh, they'll remember John Mckissick for a long, long time.
His legacy can't be matched. His influence can't be measured. And no, his impact can't be forgotten. This is Somerville. This is John's town. It's such a small town feel whenever you come up here. And that funeral today had that small town feel. So many people wearing green and gold. Yeah. I think that was the most emotional thing. And you and I went in and talked to Miss Mckissick. And so many people have asked this week, how's she doing? How's she handled it? She was doing great. She was standing and she said, I'm not ready to sit. I want to greet everybody with a big hug and a kiss. And she was his greatest supporter ever. So I think we'll all be thinking about Miss Mckissick and how she handles this whole situation.
As the procession left this church here at Bethany United Methodist Church, it left down this road on West 2nd Street and then took a right and took one final lap past Mckissick Field, just so Coach could see it for one final time. Our team coverage continues at the bottom of the hour. For Scotty, I'm Dean Stevens. Tessa, back to you. The town of Somerville, Flowertown, came to a standstill today as they laid to rest Coach John Mckissick. Welcome back to Somerville, everybody. I'm Dean Stevens, along with Scott Eisberg. It was some kind of showing today. It's really hard to put into words exactly what we experienced, what we saw today at Bethany United Methodist Church, just to watch the people slowly file in here, starting at about 10:15 today until the final procession left around 3:45.
Yeah, there were players, there were coaches, there were friends, there was just community members. I think the most enjoyable part of the day was kind of having that camaraderie with them, just waiting in line for an hour to visit the family. We were speaking to people who had dealt with him as trainers. We were talking to town historians. We were talking to, former coaches. Leroy Riley from Colleton County. We hadn't seen him in years since he stopped coaching down in Walterboro. All of these people coming to pay respects to the man they loved so dearly and learned so much from. And he affected everyone from the lowest to the highest. That's the incredible thing about it. The first person we saw today was Danny Ford. I mean, you don't get bigger in the state of South Carolina than Danny Ford, the man who brought that first national championship to Clemson. He came down from the upstate and, of course, had to visit Coach.
I spent about an hour with him on that Saturday morning before the fair started. Walked in, he said, "Hey, Danny Ford." I said, "Good gosh, Coach, I thought you was sick." His mind was sharp as it could be. He just had trouble with his mobility, but he's sharp. We talked about coaching. We talked about football. He was waiting on the 12 o'clock game to come on TV to watch in his room there. So just a great man. So sorry for him and his family. So sorry for the community because he was such an icon down here and all over the state. Well, this little old place here has been outstanding in athletics forever since he's been around, and it's not every day that someone passes away to won more football games than anybody in the United States of America.
John Mckissick had deep ties to the upstate and Clemson. He was born in Greenwood. His grandson, Donnie McElveen, played quarterback for Dabo Swinney in Clemson, and it was something that really struck me after Dabo Swinney won the Palmetto Bowl on Saturday. The first thing he did when he came into the media room was talk about John Mckissick. Before the game, before the win, before the playoff, anything, it was about John Mckissick. It shows everybody in this state knew him.
And when we were standing in line to pay our final respects and to say hello to Miss Joanne, who, by the way, was doing great today. I mean, we talked to people who said, I was a teacher. I retired before he did. He taught me. I was then an administrator here. I retired long before he did. And then just walking on the streets, you would run into friends and family and complete strangers who said, I may not have known Coach very well, but he never forgot my name.
He was everyone's friend, dad, grandpa, just an amazing human being, and just feel like he still should be here.
And that was the other kind of overwhelming emotion today. People were just, still in a state of shock, thinking, this is a guy, intellectually, right? We're fairly smart people.
He's 93 years old.
We know that, we all die. But the feeling here today was that Coach was never supposed to die. No. He was never supposed to die.
D'Angelo Henderson, I think, said it best when we spoke to him the night that Coach passed. He was at Thanksgiving dinner with his family, and he said, I knew Coach was sick, but I thought he would live to 150 because he was Coach Mckissick. That's just the way he was. It was interesting today when we were at the visitation and we saw some of the pictures of Coach Mckissick. He looked great in those pictures, and I know of late, physically, he kind of deteriorated a little bit, but everyone to a man said mentally he never deteriorated. He knew little specific details about everything until the day that he passed away. This town meant so much to Coach Mckissick. He was almost like a historian for the town, and that information never left him.
The other amazing statistic, we might as well talk about statistics as we leave here right now. The thing I heard today, in the 62 years that Mrs. Mckissick was behind Coach's side, she missed all of 2 football games. Reporting from Flowertown, for Scotty, I'm Dean Stevens. Tessa, back to you.
A friend's friend, a coach's coach. His body no longer with us. His mind, his thoughts, his advice, they'll never leave.
Working hard at everything you do, even at home as a granddad is like, he always said, never pay somebody to do something you can do yourself, whether if it's cut the grass, whether if it's wash your car, pressure wash in the house, so all those little things. And that carries over into coaching, all those little attention to details, just kind of, in that preparation.
Imagine being a fly on the wall at this meeting at his house just over a month ago.
Walked in, he said, "Hey, Danny Ford." I said, "Good gosh, Coach, I thought you was sick." His mind was sharp as it could be. He just had trouble with his mobility, but he's sharp. We talked about coaching. We talked about football. He was waiting on the 12 o'clock game to come on TV to watch in his room there. So it's not every day that someone passes away to won more football games than anybody in the United States of America, and that was John Mckissick.
You are what your record is. John Mckissick, the greatest ever. His adversaries won't argue that.
It touched me because, he's been such an inspiration to so many people, certainly coaches. When I came down here in 2002, Coach Mckissick was like, he was it, and and he remained an inspiration to me. Really, even after we both retired, we would get together.
And then over the years, we just had some unbelievable ball games, big ball games, the region championships, lower state championships. A great memory is 1998. They went 15-0 and won the state championship. We turned around the very next year and went 15-0 and won the state championship, and kind of told everybody in the state that we play pretty good football in the Low Country.
Yeah. Coach buried the exact way you'd expect him to be. Khaki pants, a Somerville jacket, holding a hat and a whistle.
It's things that we just continue to live with now. Certainly being older and wiser, you look back, and those are the ingredients that really kind of make you kind of the person you are today.
And the best part for those in these parts, that Mckissick legacy, not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's such a joy, a love to keep going back, to keep going to work every single day, to get into that same routine. And, you could always tell toward the end of summer he was getting itchy because he wanted to get back in that routine. And I have those same feelings.
Coach will always be watching, and he'll never be far. His final resting place, just a chip shot field goal away.